So, does anyone care to touch on this further?
My name is Jerry. I left MAGA, and I'm here to spill all the tea. Let me explain what I mean by charismatic evangelical in the context of me being a former charismatic evangelical. I grew up with that whole speaking in tongues, Bible thumping, laying on the hands for healing and casting out demons. That whole thing. I don't believe in that anymore. I don't believe in hell anymore either. I've done my research. But what I'm wanting to bring today is a return to my first article, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, as a continuation or a further extension of episode 18 that I did on Empowered 21. The Christian dominion concept is driven by towards global dominionism through the concept of this thing called the Seven Mountains Mandate, which brings us to today's subject, Mr. Lance Wallnau. He calls himself Dr. Lance Wallnau. But anyway, Lance Wallnau has been a thorn in my side for a while now, at least 3 years. So what are the seven mountains that they feel like they need to take control of to make Jesus come back? They want to take over education, religion, faith, business, the military and government, arts and entertainment, and media. They think that if each one of these seven spheres or seven mountains or seven spheres of influence or seven mountains are controlled by Christians of their kind, then it's all going to be good, and that's going to bring Jesus back, and that's going to bring in the 1,000-year reign of the kingdom of God on earth. So yeah, it's kind of wild. But what I want to do today is introduce you to Mr. This Lance Wallnau character. So let's go over to his webpage. All my links are in the description below. Lance Wallnau, what a smirk. Anyway, truth will not be silenced. Join the resistance. And this truth they're talking about, or that he's referencing, is the truth as these people perceive it. But the reason I'm here is because I want to just scroll down through his webpage. Let's see. God is on the move. Satan is after America. Satan uses gatekeepers, spiritual warfare, secrets, armor up. Everything's spiritual with these people. And as somebody aptly pointed out in one of my, I think a couple of my videos in the comments, yes, I have an account on Rumble, but I set it up when I was in MAGA. So if you want to see where I was a few years ago, sure, go find GI Wingnut on Rumble, and you can see how I used to work, and you can compare that to how I work now. Anyway, moving along, Mr. Lance Wallnau. USA Today described him as one of only 3 evangelical leaders to accurately predict Donald Trump's presidency from the moment he began his campaign. His best-selling book, God's Chaos Candidate, broadcasts and viral media influenced 3 to 5 million undecided evangelical voters. Now, if there had even if Lance had missed on his predictions on Trump, somebody else would have hit the mark, because there was that much diversity in the prediction patterns. Lance's prediction that Trump would be a modern-day Cyrus was challenged by left-wing news outlets, but vindicated in their eyes. On March 5th, 2018, the day Prime Minister Netanyahu met with President Trump in the White House to thank him for his historic embassy decision to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem for the American evangelicals, linking him to Cyrus. You don't think that's some sort of positive feedback loop? Anyway, a New York Times op-ed quotes Lance, quote, could God be, I'm sorry, try that again. A New York Times op-ed quotes Lance, quote, could Trump be God's Cyrus, end quote. Now, I'm going to have to do a whole video on this whole Cyrus thing. And it probably won't be a very long video. It's not that big of a monster. Anyway, Lance is the innovator who introduced the 7 mountains of culture as a fresh template to explain how the church must engage culture at the turn of the century. So, culture wars. This guy has been driving the culture wars that we've been seeing, experiencing. The stuff that I participated in that it's not, it's, no, it's different for me now. Very different. But anyway, continuing, Dr. Wallnau, Lance Wallnau is a strategist, futurist, and compelling communicator who has shared platforms with Ben Carson, Mike Pompeo, that's a special character, and best-selling authors Ken Blanchard and John Maxwell. Now, John Maxwell showed up as one of the authors on the options list, the 10 books that a boy can choose from as part of their required reading for membership into the Royal Rangers, that group that I grew up in. So I'm gonna have to dig into John Maxwell, figure out what he's about. Ben Carson and Mike Pompeo, they weren't on, I don't think they were on in my gallery of rogues list yet, but they will be. So continuing with this self-aggrandizing statement from Lance, Lance, has conducted training for the United Nations, which is not liked by MAGA, and spoken at Harvard, which is not liked by MAGA, the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, wait, I thought China was bad, and the London School of Theology. I think I remember a couple of connections, but I'm going to dig into them to make sure. I'm not going to say anything about that just yet. Continuing. With a 30-year background consulting businesses and nonprofits, Lance's students represent a global tapestry spanning governments, CEOs, entertainers, and entrepreneurs. Lance used to be one of the ministers on that list of folk over there at Empowered 21, and I will be revisiting that list for other profiles to work up. I got so many. Anyway, back to Lance. Lance currently directs the Lance Learning Group, a strategic teaching and consulting company based in Dallas. It keeps coming back to Dallas. So I've got this video clip here. It's 1 minute and 35 seconds long. Lance Wallnau says Trump is casting out demons when he kicked out a CNN reporter. Okay, so this is literal demonization to humiliate a fellow human. And, I just realized I don't have that set where you can see the dates on it. So this is from rightwingwatch.org website. Again, all the links will be down below. But you can see there, January 25th, 2018. So let's check this out.
But what I noticed is these disruptions weren't happening at Rubio meetings, weren't happening at Cruz meetings, weren't happening at Hillary meetings. You know why? The devil wasn't manifesting at those meetings. Right. Now, these aren't people just spontaneously manifesting like a deliverance service. These are people that are working together at a level of evil, right, in order to coordinate almost like, and you think about it, a lot of us, I used to work in unions, and I worked with negotiating with unions. But union tactics are like that, where intimidation, manipulation, and domination, where you bully people or threaten them, like Antifa. Yep. You threaten them with violence, and the average person will back down. So I started noticing that, and I said,
Wait, is that what the Trump administration is expecting to happen in the United States at the end of January of 2026? Is that what's going on? So, like you just said, the average human is going to back down. I'm seeing a lot of above average humans responding, but I'm digressing. I'm trying to address Lance.
Donald Trump isn't backing down. Why? because there's a deliverance anointing on him for America.
Amen.
And what do you do when demons are manifesting? You cast them out.
Amen.
He just cast out Jim Acosta last week. It was
Amen.
hilarious.
Amen.
He points out and he goes, out. One word, out. And the security, boom, escorts the journalist out. It's a deliverance anointing. So he's got
Trump has a deliverance anointing to cast demons out of the oppressor because the demon looks like a human. This is really dangerous rhetoric if you don't notice that right off the bat. Up next, Lance Wallnau says there's no chaos in the Trump administration. I think we can all challenge that, but also note that this is March 22nd, 2018. So this is during the first Trump administration. And looking back on it, there was a lot of chaos, and I can't believe I didn't see what was going on.
This sentiment, I guess, about how chaotic our government is and how much disorder there seems to be, and Trump's firing this one and that one, and this is going on and that's going on. And one of the things I want to point out, which you could speak to very well, you wrote a book called The Chaos Candidate.
Right.
And the chaos candidate has now become the chaos president. And because of that, I want to encourage people, it is impossible to bring about the kind of change that was necessary in our government and in this nation without creating chaos. It's just not going to happen. We should not be disturbed by this chaos. We should be hopeful. It should bring us hope that there's changes coming and things happening in our government with what Trump's doing, yes, but I believe that God's more interested in what happens to this nation than Donald Trump is. And so what a lot of this sentiment...
Wait. So yeah, there is that book, God's Chaos Candidate. But then there's also this other book that came out later, God's Chaos Code, trying to excuse Trump's behavior. It's nutty in my opinion. I don't know. See, having grown up in a doomsday cult, already having my mind groomed to fall into an authoritarian followership, it was all set up. I was set up. That's kind of how I feel about it. I'm not bitter towards others. I want to share with people what it is that I have learned or unlearned. Unlearned and relearned? Learn correctly. Unlearn and learn correctly. However you want to picture it in your mind. Sometimes I just don't have the words to get the thoughts across. But yeah, there's that. What have I got up next? Oh yeah, Lance Wallnau and Jim Baker. Oh my goodness, what a pair. So Lance Wallnau, yeah, I'm not going to play the whole clip. This is from March 29th, 2018, so I better give that a thumbs up too. Let's just listen.
Ever plan to write again about going to prison and what happened, but I'm really lately I've been so tempted to tell the whole thing. Because what I've seen, what Trump is going through.
By the way, if you don't recall or if you don't know, Jim Baker went to prison for tax evasion. I'll do a video on him.
Is exactly what happened to me. And how they run it, how they do it.
Yeah.
And when the parole board looked me in the eye and said, Jim, we believe that you're not guilty. It shook all the way to Washington. They said, you're free. We declare you're not guilty. Washington could not tolerate the fact that the board had said I wasn't guilty. They did everything they could to make me stay 2 more years in prison after that.
Persecution complex.
I could have gone home 2 years before. It was retro. It was that. when the government wants to get somebody, they get them. And this is what's frustrating
Paranoia.
about the president. You can't just do that to a president.
Right.
But we're letting it happen.
But
And I don't get it. I don't.
He was convicted and adjudicated on 34 felony counts, including SAing E. Jean Carroll. But this guy's a criminal anyway, so why wouldn't he? Let's hear how Lance responds, and then we're probably going to go ahead and move on to the next video because I got a bunch to do here.
Something is happening, though, and I was going to come here, and I was very distressed, and the Lord.
I know something's going
But
on.
the
I can
Lord
watch
gave
it.
me
I can see the
here's
signs,
what the Lord.
but-
I'm going to show you the encouragement. Here's the encouragement. That's what I believe the Lord showed me. That there's supposed.
He believes the Lord showed him. Keep that in mind. I think it's possible. I think it is possible that he truly believes what he's about to say because of how his faith system works. But is he really hearing from God?
Be a blue wave, this rage machine, this anger, this collective voter backlash. But you see like what happened last night with the Attorney General in New York? Now get this, New York is where they're taking the case to take Donald Trump down through getting his Michael Cohen, his personal attorney's files. New York's where they want to judge him. So here's what God does. Hollywood wants to judge Trump, Weinstein's scandal, and the entire Hollywood industry gets exposed.
It's crazy.
New York Times wants it. Journalists want to go after him. Boom. From Charlie Rose all the way to, what's his name, with the morning show.
Matt Lauer.
People miss this.
Yep.
It's the wrecking ball of heaven. If you touch God's anointed, what you've done is you basically said, you get this?
If you touch God's anointed. Seriously, Lance. I'll do it. Yeah, it's I don't have the verse queued up right at the moment, but this is the thing that these people constantly go to. Touch not God's anointed. And they claim this anointedness or this godly mantle as their excuse for their behavior. Oh, God said it's okay. That's why if somebody claims to be a Christian, I ask, which Christ do you follow? October 30th, 2018, Lance Wallnau says bombs were a demonic attempt to stop Christians from voting. Let's see what he's referring to here.
Now Christians are coming under the bombardment of a manipulated demonic news cycle because, of course, the devil is the master of propaganda, and he must get control of the apparatus of American government. He has to. And so you have the news cycles. You have the news cycle about the crazy stripper in Florida who's, bombing people with 13 pipe bombs. What you're not hearing is the bombs were designed in such a way that they really wouldn't go off. They were meant to send a message. They're being presented as though there were all these high-tech explosive devices that they don't.
Again, it sounds to me like he's talking about some sort of perceived persecution that I just don't have the evidence for. I used to believe this way. But when I started interacting with the real world, I started realizing how much fog there was being pumped in front of the mirrors to create these illusions. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. All the links are going to be in the description. So, up next, we have Lance Wallnau prays that God will raise up more giant leaders like Reps Greene, Gaetz, and Cawthorn. March 9th, 2022. This obviously has not aged well. And if this is the clip that I'm thinking of, I memed it with the Kabuki Theater opening for a show one night. I may have to see what I can do about digging it up. It might get a copyright strike. I don't know. But yeah, let's have some fun with this. Let's see what's going on. Of course, we got to leave these right-wing watch disclaimers on here, just because, yeah, I need to.
And I pray for a moment when you will raise up, Lord. Your wisdom is greater than ours, but I believe you've given us this understanding that there's a moment to put a backlash against the elites and to cause your church to rise up. We're not leading right now, Lord. We're not a big voice right now. Nobody's quoting us except for an apology. Lord, I pray that you will raise up spirit-inspired leaders of the populist movement, that even in America, the Christian populace would begin to rise up.
Okay, yeah, this is the prayer that I was referring to. But you'll notice again, there's that spirit-filled, what's the word I'm looking for? Language. That's all right. Yeah, fibromyalgia is a booger. That language that he's using, that spirit-filled, that charismatic. I'm showing that performatively, I'm filled with the Holy Spirit by speaking in tongues. I'll do a video on glossolalia at some point, but yeah, let's get back to this prayer, because this is the one I was thinking of, and it's going to go off the rails here in just a moment. Yeah, I mean, not that it started on the rails.
Restore the nation, Christian nationalists that love America and that are sane and rational and want to see America not just.
And he straight up names Christian nationalist right there. So, I mean, there's your full context.
Destroyed by the globalists. I pray that you raise up a church that is so powerful and so disruptive to the agendas of these elites that some too has to happen. Why do the heathen rage and the rulers imagine a vain thing? For they say amongst themselves, let us break their bands from us. Let us break their cords and cast them away. For we are restrained by this movement.
I'm sorry. I just cannot take this guy seriously. What he's presenting here is called contemplative prayer. He's asking God to settle a score for him. This is just beyond the pale. But moving on.
Let a movement rise that restrains these elites, Lord, and let the gospel go forth furiously and with power. Let us have Lord, at least a cessation of wars and a moment of peace, and let the Sith, the great gospel blade, go through the nations and bring in a great harvest. Would you do that, Father? Would you give us the harvest of nations? Would you cause the church to rise up in Australia like Samson and flex its muscles and break free from the tyranny of its own?
Okay, so this harvest thing that he's talking about relates to something that was referred to as the million soul harvest and is now referred to as the billion soul harvest. And what they mean by this is conversions. Their ultimate goal is to convert everybody to their form of Christianity, which, and we can see the fruits of their work. I also, another reason I can't take him seriously is he's using this selfie stick, apparently. And every time he gives that emphatic burst, there's that shake. And I would almost like to have been a fly on the wall when this happened. Anyway, I just can't take this guy seriously. And now this isn't actually the prayer that I was thinking of, I don't think, on second thought. But let's go ahead and finish it.
Of its own authority, suppressing them from having church and forcing them to have masks and causing this stupid social distancing. Break their bans, Lord. I pray that you would do it in the United States. We would have such.
Oh, break their bands, like he thinks he's enslaved. This goes back to that Christian persecution ideology.
Such a cleansing of the house in November. But oh God, give us leaders like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, and give us great leaders like Cawthorn. Give us great leaders that'll rise up and be mouthpieces.
He said Hawthorne, he meant Cawthorn, and he didn't say Gaetz. What did he say? It wasn't Gaetz. Anyway.
bold, on fire, clear, articulate, and on fire with their subject. And let freedom ring. Let freedom ring, Lord.
All right. Yeah, let freedom ring. That's a call to civil war in the coded language. Up next, Lance Wallnau warns that God will soon start. Yeah, you can see that next word. Those who are persecuting Trump, and this is April 10th, 2023. So this happened during the Biden administration. Minute and a half. Let's roll it and see what he has to say. I'm going to leave these disclaimers intact, of course, because it's necessary. Sorry about the glitching on the screens.
Why is the devil doing what the devil's doing? Because he's manifesting, because he knows he only has a limited time. Satan's whole Antichrist activity is him trying to consolidate control because he knows he's about to lose everything. So you have to really reinterpret what's going on in the news. Watching what's happening with Donald Trump as we're praying into that. I believe this is the time. Maybe the election wasn't the time, but this is the time for the imprecatory prayers that would be answered, which is going to be, may they fall into the pit that they...
Impregnatory prayers. Oh my goodness. Just break the word down. Impregnatory prayers. This is related to that whole give us a donation and call it planting a seed and great fruits will be born from it. It's just, oh good grief.
They have dug. Now what would that look like? Well, it could be that there's such an outrageous backlash over the clear political persecution of an innocent political candidate that we're really becoming like a Venezuela or a Soviet Union where we find a crime to lock up or assassinate our political rivals. The American people won't put up with it.
Wait. And now, okay, he's Lance was right about that. American people won't put up with it. I'm going to point to Minnesota. All right? I'm going to point to Minneapolis. And I'm going to point to those places to debunk the first half of what Lance just said. All right? Oh, man.
Now, the elites in Washington, well, they shrug their shoulders. They're half happy that this is happening. But I've been listening to prophecies lately about sudden deaths. And it looks to me like there could be some sudden deaths coming in May. And in May, you're going to see some of the disciplinary hand of God come down upon those people.
Now, if somebody hears that and they follow QAnon, they're going to say, oh, that's the white hats are going to be doing the work. The good guys in the government. Oh, good grief.
People that have been standing in the path of what he wants to do. And I'm not talking about Democrats only. We have Republicans also.
There's also those in the movement that would attribute those sudden deaths to being vaccinated. These people do not have a unified thought system. Just saying. All right, next video. From April 19th, 2023. Let's just go ahead and get into this. Again, about a minute and a half. And I'm going to leave the disclaimers in place just because.
And Trump has a difficult path to the presidency because there are 5 swing states with 5 counties that are corruptly, as far as I'm concerned, locked up. You can't get a Republican or conservative into the White House through Maricopa, Fulton County, Philadelphia. You can't. The counties and Cook County, Nevada. I'm sorry, those states you could be winning the states by 5%, but it's not enough. So we're going to have to go to each of those states. We're going to be doing a Fire and Glory tour, Mario and me. And we're going to go.
Or the Fire and Glory tour, or the Reawaken America tour. These are things that I will be covering at some point in the future. There's just so much to cover here.
We're going to ask intercessors to help us target each of those states. We're going to be working looking for the legislators, looking for the DAs, looking for the attorney generals. We're going to be meeting with 5,000 to 10,000 patriots. We're going to have 1,000 to 2,000 saved at each event. We're going to be raising up 4,000 grassroots saints that are going to be in the war for schools and for election integrity. And they're going to be such a swing vote force for the Republican Party that we can see the Republican Party shaken to the core. And that's the only way you can do it, folks. You're going to have to do it through the instrumentality of power and deliverable constituency. We're going to have to show up with thousands in each of these states.
So that's their game plan. All right. This is the same sort of thing that needs to be done on our side as well, on the Democrat. I don't even want to say the Democrat side. I'm going to say on the side of the American people. All right, next video. I knew this was going to be a long one. Yeah, it's all right there, the title. Merging political rallies with spiritual revivals. Let's just go ahead and get started on this. I don't know that we'll play the whole thing, but yeah, here we go.
What would happen if the rallies became revivals? What would happen if Jesus wasn't having to be hidden off in a corner with a bunch of nervous Christians? What if we came right up front and said the only hope for America isn't political? I don't care who your candidate is. You need God. Well, here's my thinking. I'll bet you there's 20 million Republicans ready to come into the kingdom of God. Now, I'm sure there's Democrats too. We get them all the time. But I'm saying the low-hanging fruit is staring at us. You can get up there and talk about Billy Graham and God Bless America and go all sing Amazing Grace. They'll all join. They just don't know the gospel. So America First Policy Institute is the secular arm of what's going on with the whole campaign on the right. But I talked to them and I said, you got to get Charlie Kirk involved. You got to get some of that younger generation that is both Christian and engaged.
Yeah, it was horrible that Charlie Kirk was murdered. That said, there is an individual with a similar position where they work in the political arena as well as the Americanized church arena. And that's Allie Beth Stuckey, the author of Toxic Empathy. And if you want to know more about her work, you can filter it through the Tim and April show here on YouTube. They just dropped a good video referencing Allie Beth for the very reason that she is similar in character role to Charlie Kirk, which, obviously this July 25th, 2023 video did not age well. It's horrible that Charlie Kirk was murdered. Same with the Hartmans, same with Renee Nicole Good, same with Alex Jeffrey Preddy. Anyway.
And they said, well, Lance, how about you? What you and Mario were doing? I said, oh, well, we're really out of the box. But then the Lord reminded me, what are you afraid of? What are you nervous about? I thought, okay, so mark this one down, Greensboro Coliseum. It's our first experiment at inviting the Republican Party to a major event at a conference, and lo and behold, the gospel shows up.
Their gospel. Like I said, all the links are below. Oh. This is where we start getting into the heavy and really ugly campaign materials that were circulating. We don't need to go through this whole video. You can see July 24th, 2024. I'm going to leave the disclaimer in place. I need to make sure I'm liking all these, because I appreciate the work that Right Wing Watch does. But let's go ahead and see what how Lance puts this.
She is more radical than Obama, and the problem is she's already stated it. However, there's such a hubris and such as kind of like aggression on the handlers on the left that they want her in. And what makes me concerned is if her unelectability doesn't stop them, then they think that she's going to stir up the race wars by playing the race card. She's going to stir up the gender wars by playing the woman against man. She's going to go back and tear open the wounds in America to say Trump is an angry white racist with a dangerous MAGA movement. And
Well, link is in the description. I'm just gonna move on. Because some of these are not aging very well, are they? My dad was so terrified of Kamala. Kamala, I still haven't learned the correct pronunciation, apparently. I don't know. Somebody please help me with that. But my dad, oh man. And this is why. So, Lance says, as Harris displayed Hitler-esque microaggressions against Trump, September 18th, 2024. Again, another clip that has not, I repeat, not aged well.
one statements came out of Kamala. Roughly 15 microaggression expressions, from disdain to contempt to mock awe to I'm thinking, I'm pondering. All of the theatrics. You ever seen the black and white pictures of Hitler, you know, where he's doing his poses in Berlin before he became an orator? You could see the expressions of studied plastic disdain or presidential empathy. Kamala is a dangerous woman.
See, this is why I use this particular tactic. It allows you to actually hear the words coming straight out of their mouths. Flashpoint Media is owned and operated by Ken Copeland Ministries. This is from October 4th, 2024. Lance Wallnau says the devil is using Kamala Harris to destroy the country. Again, this is why my dad and I had a major falling out.
I saw Kamala Harris as being the one that the devil was going to use to push through the White House. And that I saw that early on. And I actually had a vision, which I thought was a warning from the Lord, of her at an inauguration. And she had a Bible, and she had done something like put a Hindu prayer book with it. And it was like she did an inauguration and was putting her hand on a modified Bible as part of her. And the Lord told me back then, he said that is how the devil intends to bring in the destruction of this country. It's the final phase.
Okay, so, man, there's a lot to unpack there. But it goes back to that whole fear-mongering thing. My dad bought all this hook, line, and sinker, just like a lot of MAGA folks have. But when it goes to the inauguration and being sworn in, you could be sworn in on any book you want to use. Any book. There's nothing in the Constitution or any other founding documents or there is no law, there is no legal precedent, there is no constitutional precedent for the Bible being used or being required to be used for swearing in. Here's another little soundbite that got my dad keyed up. I have not talked to my dad in months. It's sad. It's sad. It hurts my heart. I wish I could talk to my dad. I wish he could accept facts for what they are. But cognitive dissonance is a booger.
Kamala Harris,
her new name, and if Trump had thought of it, he'd be saying it, is Caligula. She's Caligula Harris. She will prove to be, if she's given power, one of the most tyrannical and unsympathetic and cruel forces of abuse of power.
She wanted health care for everybody. She, as I understood, supported universal basic income, a bunch of things that a lot of folks like me would like to see. Like with the universal basic income, and free health care, we could get rid of medical bankruptcies. So this clip is from October 22nd, 2024. This is the stuff that my dad was gobbling up, and there was nothing I could do to to change his mind. That's an unfortunate side effect of somebody that's embraced this ideology so passionately for so many decades. But again, Lance's words are blown up in his face. I mean, just look at Minneapolis. What have I got queued up next? Let's see. Lance Wallnau sees the government and church working together to spread Christianity globally. This is going back to that Empowered 21, Empowered 21 thing with their deadline of Pentecost 2033. This clip is from December 4th, 2024. Let's go ahead and get into this. I'm probably not going to play the whole thing, and this is actually turning out to be a quicker project than I had expected. But let's go ahead and get into this. Disclaimers in place because they're important. Yep.
God's opening a door in the White House for the office of faith and religious freedom, which means Christianity is going to have proximity to the Oval Office to have projects that are going to guarantee global freedom.
Okay, so that did happen, and the current leader of that office is Paula White. I'm going to do a video on her. And during the first Trump administration, this office also existed, and another member besides Paula White of that office was Robert Morris. I'm going to do a video on him at some point in the future. If you want to get ahead of the curve with me on that one, check out Robert Morris, Gateway Church, Dallas, Texas. I told you. We're going to be coming back to Dallas quite a bit. But let's go back to this.
That's our call in the nations. So we're going to be exerting an appropriate but not interfering wisdom in influencing governments to stop persecuting Jesus' people. And Trump will create incentives in
On that note, they don't consider Catholics Jesus' people. Moving on.
Trade and in business, potentially. I'm just speaking creatively right now.
I think you're prophesying, man. I get that's creative.
That's Todd Beehive White. I've got a piece coming up on him too. This guy's actually had protesters outside his church with signs declaring him a false teacher and a false prophet, among some legal issues. I'm going to do a video on him.
It can happen. And here's the fifth column. Why not release the Christians in these nations as an alignment influence with the United States agenda? Amen. So that the Christians...
Also, Palestinian Christians, like the ones in Gaza, they didn't matter either. They didn't count. They weren't white Christians or Israeli Christians. Well, it's nuanced trying to explain the differences in their thoughts. I'll try to continue untangling things, but for now, I'm just going to have to leave that one alone.
Globally, stop being persecuted and can start to line up with an agenda of making the world. In other words, going into all the world and bringing these ideas out there so that there's sheep nations start to emerge. When Jesus returns, he's going to gather two types of countries.
Sheep nations led by America, by the American government and the American church. If you want to watch the rest of the video, if you want to watch the other minute and 40 minute and 40 some seconds, the link is down below. But this goes back to that Empowered 21 video that I did in episode 18 of this series, which is just a couple of videos back. I'm going to just leave this one right here for now. We may revisit it later. May 23rd, 2025. So this is after the Trump inauguration. This is during the current administration. Lance Wallnau says Trump can't mess up because he's protected by prayer. This goes back to the video I just did on Christian nationalist forgiveness doctrine.
And I mean this totally sincerely. You don't have to really worry about Trump messing something up. You're going to look back on this period of time and realize, and I pray it's not a contrast with a period in the future, but you're going to look back on these days and say, for a moment, we experience what it's like when you've got leadership that understands their agency and they're doing what they're really capable of doing under a canopy, dare I say, of intense, fervent, consistent global intercession. That's the thing. There's more at work here than just a man. There's prayer. Even his mistakes are working out and to the benefit of his assignment.
Oh, really, Lance? I beg to differ. Lance Wallnau says the deep state planted false information against Trump and the Epstein files. This is from July 14th, 2025. And this information was amplified by Trump around the same time, along with a bunch of other Trump supporters, MAGA people, Trump supporters, pretty much the same thing, but not necessarily. There's some, and it's a lot to untangle, but hopefully, I can help you get this all figured out.
Dealing with the highest levels of demonic temptation, power, money, and imagine what kind of pathological mental state you're in to be in the top of those leagues. So, like I heard one guy say that if you're really at the highest level of those organizations, you put your own mother in a wood chipper if they got in the way. And so, I mean, they're saying that cynically, but these are FBI guys saying there's a certain state of mind in these people, and I believe it. And so, the Warren Commission will truth be ever known? Falsified documents, false trails, they just blew the brains out of a president in broad daylight. That's these people. And I think that
if you didn't catch the reference on that, the Warren Commission ran the investigation on the JFK assassination. That's on my list of topics to cover.
they would be willing to plant information, evidence, and create false trails and all kinds of booby traps. They're capable. This is what they do. They're like almost like demonically inspired at the craft that they're in. And Trump says, "Don't put me into the butler box again." And that's, I think, what he's trying to say. That's my take on it. So I don't think he's hiding. I think he's trying to avoid something.
Yeah, he's trying to avoid being exposed. Just look at what's going on in the world in in America in January of 2026. I only have a few more videos. We're winding this up fairly soon. From August 14th, 2025, Lance Wallnau says God is using Trump to give right-wing Christians control over the 7 mountains, which is where we started this whole video. And in January of 2026, we can see how that's playing out, can't we? So let's at least check out some of what Lance has to say. And
You're the one that's crazy. But I'm telling you, man, Steve Colbert's out. Howard Stern's out. And what's this Washington Post? Hope you guys find this stuff. I hope you find this as interesting as I do. You ought to. Because this is what you're praying for. The 7 mountains of influence culture. If all we do is have our little parties over here in revival land and we don't see the grenades going over there into the top of academia, in the top of Wall Street, in the top of business, in the top of government, in the top of the intelligence department, in the top of the Kennedy Center, if we don't go after these high places, Jesus said it. He said, when the enemy is swept out, if you don't occupy that territory, he will come back 7 times worse. And a lot of Christians are all, oh, what's going to happen, Lance, when the Democrats come back? They're gonna come after us. Yeah, of course, they're going to come up with a vengeance if they have anything left to use. But right now,
see, I'm going to cut him off there. I'm going to cut him off there because that has been a fear-mongering line that these people have used for decades. One of the things that helped me really untangle stuff was not seeing the Biden administration hunting people down to lock them up in camps, like Alex Jones was originally warning the Democrats were going to do, and then ended up supporting Trump doing. Alligator Alcatraz. So there's a lot of fear-mongering here. There's a lot of fear-mongering. Again, links are in the description. September 3rd, 2025. Lance Wallnau cheers on Trump for lying about crime statistics for political gain. 57 seconds. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and let it play so you can hear the words fall out of his mouth.
Tweet that. 7:45 a.m. That's 6:30 a.m. He wakes up, and the first thing he does is he says, let me start dropping some bombs on Governor Pritzker's ambition to become president. He's knocking out his president. If it wasn't there, he'd be hitting Newsom. Most people are missing this. Chicago's not where the most homicides are. They have terrible statistics. Believe it or not, the Democrat-run cities of Baltimore, St. Louis, New Orleans, Memphis, and Birmingham have higher homicide rates. But Trump is going after the low-hanging fruit of framing something around the neck of the mayor and the governor in Illinois because that's competition for his status in the White House and for J.D. Vance's status. So at 7:45, he says Chicago is the murder capital of the world.
right.
No, it isn't, but he's saying it is, and that's all that matters.
Oh, okay. So I live in St. Louis, Missouri. And we have our share of crime, but it is not that bad. It was going down. It was going down. And then the state, which Missouri is a red state, which is another reason why I think we haven't been harassed. Not any more than we have anyway. Our city has a Democrat government, and for the most part, for a good part anyway. But there was a power play by our governor to take St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department over again last year. The St. Louis Metro Police Department, it's I don't have time to talk about it here. But Lance pointed out there this red state, blue state thing, and you just heard him say, well, it's not the truth, but he said it anyway. They're embracing his lies. Let's see, a minute and 6 seconds from September 18th, 2025. Lance suddenly decries the very language he used on multiple occasions. Let's check this nugget out. I need to get a better microphone.
If I had more visibility, if I was out in front agitating more, I'd be right there in the same kill box that people like Charlie are in, because this has to stop. And this is the moment we have right now, which we don't want to be distracted from by the Candace Owens and all the Jew haters and the Israel conspiracy theorists. We've got to go after the media and the politicians and the network news commentators and the preachers, weirdly enough, on the left, who are calling us Nazis and racists and fascists because that language is now being used to justify within the murder cult of the disoriented trans and bizarre Marx community. They think they're doing God a service by killing people like us. You got that? So now the battle's going to go to them regarding their rhetoric.
Links down below. This has been a labor of love, folks. This has been a challenge. I mean, I grew up believing this stuff was real. I grew up being told that these biblical prophecies still applied today. It took a lot of work to get to where I am. And trust me, I had to work to get myself in the right mindset to start this, because mental health matters. And it took me about 7 years of therapy to even be able to address this whole deconstruction program. Another 3 years of therapy while I was doing my deconstruction and turning my life around. I got a decade of therapy under my belt. I've put in my work. And we're going to talk more about that in the future. But this is September 23rd, 2025. Lance Wallnau says that Kash Patel will satisfy the bloodlust of the angry masses. Kash Patel, FBI director. Remember, Dan Bongino was recently released from the FBI or resigned. I don't know. Anyway, he's no longer working as the deputy director at the FBI. He was replaced by Andrew Bailey, the former attorney general of my great state of Missouri. I say that with some heartache. And some big feelings. But I'm hoping that we can get things turned around. But let's check out this 49 seconds.
As he says, we are really vigorously going into the networks right now, but he can't come out and satisfy the red meat appetite of the angry people that are in the stage of grieving, because it throws off.
Oh, the stage of grieving Charlie Kirk's murder.
Off the legal case. He's got to make sure that the I's are dotted, because sure as anything, the same ghastly Gestapo legal antics that tried to put Trump in prison are going to wrap around these organizations to protect their freedom of speech and their right of assembly. And so he's got to make sure that he's got good prosecutorial evidence before he satisfies the, frankly, the bloodlust of the angry masses. I understand that.
Renee Nicole Good. Alex Jeffrey Preddy. Moving on to the last clip that I want to share with you in this painful journey. Further hypocrisy, November 14th, 2025, Lance Wallnau wants a deportation carve-out for conservative Republican Hispanics. I'll deport them all except for these people. I don't see why. No, I do. But I'm hoping that what I'm bringing will help others find their way out as well. This is my hope. This is my mission.
I work also in the MAGA Hispanic community, and you know the big thing that all the Hispanic Latino preachers are all, well, they'll tell you, because they tell me, is they're concerned because attendance is down in the churches. It's a shame that the Christians that are illegal in the country.
You think maybe they might be afraid of getting scooped up and deported, Lance? And where was your consideration or concern for your brown Christian brothers and sisters when your buddy Peter Thiel was supplying AI powered for drones and
that have been in the church for 10 years, 15 years. They're afraid that ICE is going to come in and bust up the church. And so some of the best citizens you've got are living.
And yet, when some concerned citizens walk into a church that's headed up by a guy who oversees an ICE unit, that's considered as untenable because of what. Yeah, I can't. Links are in the description below. Yeah, I'm frustrated. I've still got some other videos to make. I'll see how that goes. Mental health matters, folks. It definitely matters. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Get the rest you need and try to get plenty of fluids. I'm going to go get some myself.